When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew the boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Beyond limitations. Throughout our entire lives, we come face to face with our limitations. No sooner do we arrive on the scene than we are seized up and sorted out. We are weighed and measured, compared and contrasted. Once we begin to notice that we are objects of scrutiny, we may also notice that we are not strong enough, tall enough, slender enough, or smart enough. The disciples of Jesus find themselves faced with limitations. As they look upon a crowd of hungry people far from home, they anticipate a looming crisis. When Jesus orders them to feed the crowds, they say what seems so sensible to say at the time. "We have only 5 small loaves of bread and 2 fish." Only. It is a word that puts boundaries on the limitless possibility. It fences in our vision to what is practical and reasonable. It pays attention to the obvious. To the untrained eye, Moses was only a simple man with an unskilled tongue, not a mighty liberator of his people. David was only a shepherd boy, not the future king of Israel. The woman washing Jesus' feet was only a sinner, not a model for how we ought to love and worship. And to the stunned imagination of the disciples, the bread and fish could only go so far. Where do you find yourself not enough? Where do you feel limited? Limited by circumstance, by opportunity, by the hurts and mistakes of the past. Recognize that God is able to feed multitudes with all that seems meager and insufficient in your life. God, I trust you to do abundantly more than I can ask or think, according to your power at work in me. Amen. The Council of Bishops begins meeting today prior to the 2012 General Conference. Please hold the council members in prayer that their work may be done effectively and compassionately.